Minecraft in the United States in one weekend made more money than Snow White has made globally after 3 weekends.
You ever wonder what happens when you mix hot lava and chicken?
Uh-oh.
Weird.
What happens when the most iconic fairy tale in animation history turns into a box office disaster, overshadowed by a blocky video game movie and igniting one of the biggest internet meltdowns in recent Hollywood memory? Disney's live-action Snow White was supposed to be a crowning achievement. It had legacy, nostalgia, a beloved story, and a rising star in Rachel Zegler. But instead of magic, it sparked mayhem. And at the center of it all, a rumored confrontation with none other than Jack Black, a viral photo of an empty theater, and a mounting sense that Disney may have finally lost touch with its audience.
Rachel Zegler then inexplicably continued to post herself in an empty theater for her own movie. She's literally the only person there. Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft goes something like this.
Chicken joe.
Let's rewind. It all started with the casting. When Disney announced that Rachel Zegler would play Snow White, the decision was marketed as bold, diverse, empowering, a modern princess for a modern age. But fans of the 1937 classic weren't buying it.
A modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Snow White was, after all, named for her skin being as white as snow. And Zegler's casting, while praised in some corners, stirred accusations of performative wokeness and disrespect for the source material. Things got worse when Zegler herself began publicly criticizing the original film, calling the prince a stalker, the love story weird, and promising her version of Snow White wouldn't be waiting for true love. She'd be chasing power.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie,
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude. It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows?
That alone would have been enough to stir controversy. But Disney didn't back down. Instead, it leaned even harder into the narrative of modernization. Gone was the damsel in distress. In her place, a fiercely independent girl boss. The studio touted its decision as visionary. But fans saw something else. A beloved fairy tale stripped of its charm and replaced with messaging. As rumors about plot changes started to swirl, test screenings only fanned the flames. Audiences reported a bizarre tonal clash, with awkward pacing and a moralistic undertone that didn't sit right.
I think this girl does not deserve a feature-length film.
You want to trash that legacy? That company that now Disney has screwed up the last 5 years trying to please a small percentage of minorities in America? Yeah, we're sick of it. So the more you do this, Disney, Iger, Ziegler, whatever her name is, yes, this is exactly the backlash you're going to get from parents who have kids who are your customers. You're supposed to win parents over. You're talking to kids, the parents pay for the tickets. You have to be a dummy as a marketer. If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what? Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role because you just screwed this thing up.
The feedback was clear. Something wasn't working. And then the moment that went viral. Rachel Zegler, just weeks before the film's wider release, posted a picture of herself sitting completely alone in a movie theater.
Rachel Zegler then inexplicably continued to post herself in an empty theater for her own movie. She's literally the only person there.
The implication? No one had come to see her film. What may have been a lighthearted post instantly became meme fodder. Critics mocked it as symbolic. Snow White's leading lady, in an empty room, representing a movie that no one wanted. The comments were brutal, but they were also telling. The public wasn't just disinterested, they were angry, and they felt ignored. Meanwhile, something else was happening in theaters across the country. Minecraft, the movie, a film adaptation of a video game that barely has a storyline, opened to massive fanfare. Theaters were packed, families were laughing. Jack Black, who voiced a central character, was being praised for his performance. And the movie? It didn't try to be political. It didn't deliver moral lessons. It was just fun. And it crushed Snow White at the box office. By its second weekend, Minecraft had already made more money than Snow White did in 3. But the real chaos was still to come.
It got destroyed at the box office. Here's the box office numbers. The Minecraft movie made $60 million on Saturday. Snow White made 2.
Whispers began to spread across fan forums and social media. Jack Black had allegedly confronted Rachel Zegler behind the scenes. The rumor was that he'd pulled her aside and questioned how she was handling the backlash. Why was she dismissing fans? Why was she framing criticism as ignorance or hate? Was that really the right move? Some say the exchange became heated. Others claim Zegler broke down entirely, emotionally overwhelmed, under immense pressure, and blindsided by someone she admired. Was it true? No one knows for sure. But that didn't stop the story from spreading like wildfire. For many, it wasn't even about whether the confrontation happened. It was the fact that it felt real. Because the tension surrounding Snow White wasn't just online, it felt baked into the film itself. Behind the scenes, rumors of constant rewrites and reshoots painted a picture of creative chaos. Scenes were allegedly cut at the last minute. The tone shifted multiple times. Test audiences were confused. Fans complained that the final product felt like a Frankenstein monster of ideas, cobbled together without a clear vision. At the center of it all stood Rachel Zegler, once Disney's new golden girl, now caught in the crossfire.
Snow White, of course, famously played by the insufferable girl boss narcissist, who's just clinical at this point, saying that audiences will always line up to see her no matter what she does.
Every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
To her defenders, the criticism was unfair, even cruel. Zegler was a young actress under massive pressure, trying to carry a $100 million Disney reboot on her shoulders. She was outspoken, sure, but also passionate. But to her critics, the issue wasn't her age or ambition. It was her tone, her constant dismissal of fans, her interviews that came off as smug, her comments that, even if unintentional, made audiences feel disrespected. The public sentiment was clear. You can reimagine a classic, but you can't mock the people who loved it and expect them to show up. All the while, Minecraft continued to thrive. It had no political subtext, no reimagined princess, no endless interviews. It just delivered what it promised, a simple, fun, family-friendly adventure. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. One film embraced its audience, the other seemed to challenge them. Back at Disney, things weren't looking good. Reports surfaced that Bob Iger and other executives were deeply concerned. The controversy wasn't fading, it was escalating. Internal sources claimed Greta Gerwig, rumored to have worked on the Snow White script, was considering releasing a statement. Whether to defend the film or distance herself from it wasn't clear. But insiders warned, anything said at this stage would be seen as damage control. As the release date approached, box office predictions began to plummet. Advanced screenings received mixed reactions at best. Viewers described the film as emotionally uneven, with clunky dialogue and scenes that felt out of place. Some even claimed that Jack Black's rumored cameo had been scrapped entirely, possibly due to the fallout with Zegler, though nothing was confirmed. On Rotten Tomatoes, critics were harsh, fans were divided. And the buzz online? It wasn't about the story. It was about the meltdown, the confrontation, the image of Disney's dream reboot unraveling in real time. Some tried to dismiss the meltdown story as internet gossip. Others saw it as a metaphor for the studio, for the production, for the entire state of modern Hollywood. The Snow White fiasco wasn't just about one movie. It was about the collision of nostalgia, politics, and public perception, and how, if you get the balance wrong, the fallout can be devastating. The film opened, and the numbers were brutal. On its first Saturday, Snow White made a mere $2 million. Minecraft pulled in $60 million on the same day. Disney's once guaranteed box office gold was now struggling to stay afloat, and audiences were making their voices heard. They didn't want lectures. They wanted magic. They didn't want politics. They wanted wonder. In the end, it wasn't just a movie that failed, it was a message that perhaps Disney needs to stop reinventing the wheel and start listening. Because if even Snow White, the very foundation of Disney's empire, can fall this hard, what does that say about the future? Whether the meltdown between Jack Black and Rachel Zegler actually happened will probably remain a mystery, but the fact that it feels so believable says everything. It reflects the chaos, the pressure, the missteps that haunted this production from day one. And it cements Snow White as one of the most controversial and talked about remakes in Disney history. Not because it was bold, not because it was diverse, but because it forgot what made the original magical in the first place.